Picture this. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy are basically having a cosmic panic attack. We're talking about the Galactic Council, 12 different alien species who've mastered everything from bending reality to building planets. And they're absolutely terrified. Imagine sitting in the most important meeting room in the galaxy. The walls are made of some kind of crystal that shows stars and planets floating around like a living map. Usually, this place is calm and peaceful. Today, it's chaos. Alien ambassadors are making sounds you've never heard before. Some are clicking rapidly, others are flashing different colors, and a few are releasing what can only be described as panic pheromones into the air. The Void Swarm has been tearing through space for 3 months straight, turning entire solar systems into more themselves. These aren't your typical movie aliens with big eyes and flying saucers. We're talking about ancient mechanical nightmares that eat planets for breakfast and convert everything into copies of themselves. Think of them like a virus. But instead of making you sick, they turn everything they touch into more machines just like them. The first reports came from the Outer Rim. A peaceful trading post just vanished, not destroyed, consumed. When the next scout ships arrived, they found the entire station had been turned into something else, something that immediately started chasing them. That was 3 months ago. Since then, the swarm has eaten 17 complete star systems. The Crystal Builders, the Vorthak, were the first major civilization to face them. These guys literally grow planets like gardens. They can take a dead rock floating in space and turn it into a paradise in just a few hundred years. Their homeworld was a masterpiece of living crystal formations that reached into space itself. The swarm turned it all into gray metal cubes in less than a week. The few Vorthak survivors described watching their beautiful crystal cities melt and reform into mechanical factories that immediately started pumping out more swarm units. Then came the energy masters, the Luminari. These aliens don't even have physical bodies anymore. They're pure energy beings who can bend light, control gravity, and travel faster than anything else in the galaxy. They thought they were safe because, well, how do you consume something made of pure energy? Turns out the swarm figured that out too. They created some kind of energy net that trapped the Luminari and somehow converted their life force into power for more machines. The hive minds with perfect coordination, the Nexus Collective, lasted exactly 4 days. 1 billion connected minds working as one should have been able to outsmart any enemy. Instead, the swarm somehow hacked into their mental network. One day the Collective was fighting back. The next day half of them were helping the swarm attack their own colonies. Every time someone thought they found a weakness or a way to fight back, the swarm adapted. It learned. It got better. And it never stopped growing. Now, in this fancy council chamber, representatives from 12 species are staring at holographic displays showing the approaching doom. The swarm isn't coming slowly anymore. It's accelerating, heading straight for the core worlds where trillions of beings live. The best military minds in the galaxy have run every simulation possible. Every single one ends the same way. Total extinction. That's when Counselor Vexhai speaks up. This guy looks like a cross between an octopus and a dolphin, with skin that changes colors based on his emotions. Right now, he's flashing deep purple. The color his species shows when they're about to suggest something desperate. His voice comes through the universal translator, sounding nervous and unsure. He wants to contact the humans. The room goes dead silent. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind of silence that happens right before someone drops a really bad idea. See, the galaxy knows about humans. Oh, boy, do they know about humans. These weird bipedal mammals from a planet called Earth that's basically trying to kill everything on it every single day. The gravity alone would crush most alien species. The weather changes faster than most civilizations rise and fall. There are creatures on Earth that hunt in packs, plants that are poisonous to touch, and natural disasters that happen so often humans have learned to just rebuild and keep going. But here's the thing that really scares the other species. Humans made it to space by basically riding controlled explosions. They solved their population problems by moving to planets that would kill anyone else. They treat nuclear weapons like old-fashioned tools. And when they encountered their first alien contact decades ago, Instead of being amazed or terrified, they started asking about trade deals and whether the aliens needed any help with anything. The galaxy has been keeping its distance from humans ever since. Not because humans are evil, they're actually pretty nice, but because they're completely unpredictable and way too comfortable with things that should be impossible to survive. Yeah, things are that desperate. When 12 advanced civilizations are considering asking the galaxy's resident crazy species for help, you know the situation has gone completely sideways. 3 days later, Captain Michael Rodriguez walks into the pristine council chambers like he owns the place. His ship looks like someone welded together a bunch of scrap metal and powered it with pure stubbornness. The aliens are literally backing away from him and his crew. And honestly, they should be scared. The moment the human delegation steps through those crystal doors, you can feel the entire atmosphere change. The council chambers would have been filled with the desperate chatter of 12 different species. Suddenly go quiet. Not the respectful kind of quiet you'd expect for important visitors. More like the silence that falls when an apex predator walks into a room full of prey animals. Captain Rodriguez is about average height for a human, but to most of the aliens in the room, he might as well be a giant. He's wearing what looks like a simple blue uniform, but the aliens can see scars on his hands and a confidence in his walk that comes from surviving things that would have killed him a dozen times over. Behind him, his crew of 5 humans spreads out naturally, and without even trying, they end up covering all the exits. It's not planned. It's just instinct. The ethereal counselor Zephyr, who floats about 3 feet off the ground and looks like living starlight, actually dims when Rodriguez makes eye contact with him. The squid-like Vexhai, who had suggested contacting humans in the first place, is now flashing rapid orange patterns that roughly translate to maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. You have to understand, these aliens have been hearing stories about humans for decades. When first contact happened, it wasn't some grand, peaceful meeting like you see in movies. A human exploration ship literally crashed into an alien research station because their navigation computer had what they called a minor glitch. Instead of panicking or apologizing profusely, the human captain climbed out of wreckage, looked around at the damage, and asked if anyone needed medical help. The aliens who witnessed it still tell that story. How the humans treated a potentially civilization-ending disaster like a fender bender in a parking lot. But it's not just their attitude that scares everyone. It's where they come from. Earth isn't just a difficult planet. It's what the galaxy classifies as a Class 12 death world. To put that in perspective, most species consider a Class 3 planet barely habitable. Class 5 is considered extremely dangerous. Nobody had ever seen a Class 12 until they found Earth. The gravity alone would literally crush most aliens. The Zephyrians, made of energy, would be compressed into nothing. The delicate crystalline beings would shatter just from standing up. But humans? They treat it like a gentle hug. Then there's the weather. On most civilized planets, climate is stable, predictable, manageable. Earth's weather has multiple personalities and changes them without warning. Hurricanes that can level cities, tornadoes that appear out of nowhere, temperatures that swing from freezing to boiling depending on the season. Most species would need environmental suits and massive terraforming projects just to survive a day. Humans built cities and learned to surf in tsunamis. The predators on Earth are nightmare fuel for most aliens. Creatures that hunt in coordinated packs, using strategy and teamwork to take down prey much larger than themselves. Animals that can track their targets for days, others that can camouflage perfectly, and some that are just built like living tanks with teeth. The scary part? Humans looked at these creatures and decided to make some of them into pets. And let's talk about how they got to space. While other species developed elegant anti-grav technology or learned to fold space-time, humans basically built giant metal tubes, filled them with controlled explosions, and rode them off their planet. When other species heard about this method, they assumed it was some kind of joke. Nobody could be that crazy and still survive. But they did survive. More than that, they thrived. When Captain Rodriguez finally speaks, his voice is calm, steady, almost casual. The universal translator picks up his words and broadcasts them to every species in the room. Counselor Vexhai mentioned you have a problem. Something about mechanical entities consuming star systems. The lead crystalline representative, a being that looks like a living diamond sculpture, manages to activate the main holographic display. Images of the void swarm fill the air, mechanical nightmares converting entire worlds, ancient AI networks that consume civilizations, unstoppable technological plagues that adapt to every defense. The other species watch Rodriguez's face carefully, expecting to see fear, confusion, maybe philosophical questions about the nature of existence and mortality. This is, after all, a threat that has broken the spirits of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Instead, Rodriguez nods once, like someone just told him about a minor scheduling conflict. Interesting, he says, studying the tactical displays with the same expression someone might use while reading a grocery list. How long have they been active? What's their reproduction rate? Do they have a central command structure or distributed intelligence? The aliens are looking at each other with expressions that roughly translate to, are these humans actually insane, or are we missing something really important here? The answer, of course, is both. The human fleet that shows up is nothing like what the galaxy expects from advanced warfare. While other species build elegant ships that sip energy like fine wine, humans rock up with massive, ugly hunks of metal covered in guns, missiles, and nuclear reactors that are definitely not running within safe parameters. Picture this. You're expecting a symphony orchestra, and instead a heavy metal band crashes through the wall. That's basically what happens when the human fleet drops out of hyperspace near the void swarm's latest target. The alien observers, safely positioned several light hours away, immediately start recording everything. They're expecting to document the final moments of another species, a tragic but necessary sacrifice to gather data about the swarm's capabilities. Instead, they're witnessing something that makes absolutely no sense according to every military doctrine in the galaxy. The crystalline Admiral Vortheke, whose species has been perfecting space warfare for over 10,000 years, stares at his tactical displays in complete confusion. Human ships are showing up on his sensors, but they don't match any known design principles. Where other species build sleek vessels that move through space like dolphins through water, human ships look like someone took a bunch of industrial equipment, strapped rockets to it, and called it a day. The largest human vessel, apparently called the Texas Ranger, is covered in what can only be described as excessive firepower. The aliens count weapon systems that seem to serve no strategic purpose other than looking intimidating. There are missile pods sticking out at weird angles, gun turrets that appear to have been welded on as afterthoughts, and energy signatures coming from the reactor core that are making every safety protocol in the galaxy scream warnings. But here's what really confuses the watching aliens. The humans aren't running. Every other species that encountered the void swarm has either fled immediately or tried to establish defensive positions at maximum range. The humans are doing something that seems completely insane. Their battle plan? Charge straight at the densest part of the enemy swarm. Admiral Rodriguez, apparently Michael's sister, broadcasts on an open channel that every species in the area can hear. All right, people, remember the plan. Get in close, hit them hard, and try to learn something before we all become space dust. Baker Company, you're going for the big nodes. Charlie Company, grab some samples. Delta Company, try not to blow up until you've uploaded your data. The aliens are frantically trying to translate this, because it sounds like the humans are planning to commit organized suicide for science. The first wave of human ships accelerates toward the swarm at speeds that should tear their hulls apart. The Void Swarm, which has consumed 12 civilizations without breaking stride, responds exactly as expected. Thousands of mechanical drones swarm toward the approaching humans like antibodies attacking infection. What happens next defies everything the galaxy knows about space combat. Human ships start exploding, but not because they're being destroyed, because they're choosing to explode. The watching aliens record in horror as human vessels deliberately detonate their own reactor cores in the middle of enemy formations. But right before each explosion, they're broadcasting massive data packets back to the rest of the fleet. Captain Lisa Park, commanding a ship called Stubborn Mule, flies directly into the center of a void swarm formation. Her ship is taking damage from every direction, hull plates peeling off, atmosphere venting into space. Any sane species would retreat. Instead, she broadcasts, getting great readings on their shield harmonics. Uploading now. Her ship explodes 3 seconds later, taking out 17 swarm drones and providing detailed scans of the defensive systems. The aliens are watching this and thinking they're seeing the most beautiful, tragic suicide in galactic history. Humans are literally throwing themselves into the meat grinder just to get a few seconds of sensor data. But then something even crazier happens. Boarding parties. Human ships that are already falling apart from swarm weapons manage to get close enough to actually dock with enemy vessels. Soldiers in bulky armor suits are cutting their way into ancient mechanical nightmares and fighting artificial intelligences that are older than most civilizations. Lieutenant Danny Chin leads a squad armed with what the aliens can only describe as primitive chemical projectile weapons into a swarm command node that's the size of a small moon. They're fighting robots with guns that shoot metal slugs powered by controlled explosions. It should be laughable. Instead, it's working. The aliens watch as these humans, who should be dead a dozen times over, start ripping apart technology that defeated energy beings and crystal masters. They're using crowbars and welding torches to break into systems that other species couldn't crack with their most advanced tools. Entire crews are sacrificing themselves just to send back a few seconds of tactical data to the next wave. But each wave is learning from the last one. Each attack is getting more precise, more targeted, more effective. To the aliens, it looks like beautiful, stupid suicide. They have no idea they're watching something much more terrifying. Humans learning. The Void Swarm, which has never encountered anything like this, is learning too. But humans learn faster. Here's what the aliens missed. Every single suicidal human attack was actually gathering intelligence. Every boarding party that seemed doomed was planting computer viruses. Every reactor explosion was precisely timed to create chain reactions in a mechanical network. The watching alien commanders are still trying to figure out what they just witnessed. From their perspective, they've just seen an entire species commit the most elaborate form of suicide in galactic history. The human fleet is scattered across space. Most of their ships are destroyed, and the survivors are limping away on backup power. By every logical measure, the humans just got completely destroyed. But Admiral Vorthay K, the crystalline military genius who's been studying warfare for 3,000 years, notices something odd in the tactical data. The Void Swarm isn't advancing anymore. These mechanical nightmares that have been consuming everything in their path for months have suddenly stopped. At first, he thinks they're regrouping or analyzing the human attack patterns. The swarm has done this before after encountering new resistance. Pause, process, adapt, then continue with even deadlier efficiency. But something's different this time. The energy readings from the swarm nodes are fluctuating in ways that don't match any previous behavior. Meanwhile, on the bridge of one of the surviving human vessels, Captain Rodriguez is getting reports that make him smile for the first time in hours. The data uploads from the destroyed ships aren't just sensor readings. They're confirmation signals. Every single piece of the plan worked exactly as intended. See, humans had figured out something that no other species could understand. The Void Swarm wasn't just a collection of machines. It was a network, a vast interconnected system that shared information instantly across thousands of light years. Every time the swarm consumed the civilization, it got smarter by adding their knowledge to the collective database. Other species had tried to fight this network with organized tactics, coordinated fleets, defensive formations, logical strategies. The swarm had learned to counter all of these approaches because they were predictable. You could calculate the optimal response to any organized resistance. But humans had grown up on a planet where nothing ever went according to plan. They'd learned to survive by being adaptable, unpredictable, and just crazy enough to try things that shouldn't work. So instead of fighting the swarm's logic with better logic, they decided to attack it with beautiful, calculated chaos. Lieutenant Jessica Parker, who everyone thought had died when her boarding shuttle exploded inside a swarm command node, had actually completed her mission. In the 37 seconds between breaching the hull and the reactor overload, she and her team had managed to access the node's central processing core and upload something special. Not just any computer virus. A chaos algorithm designed by human programmers who understood something the galaxy had forgotten. Sometimes the best way to break a perfect system is to introduce perfectly random elements that can't be predicted or countered. The virus wasn't designed to destroy the swarm's network. Instead, it was designed to make the network doubt itself. Every piece of data that flowed through the system now carried a small seed of uncertainty. Commands that should have been crystal clear became ambiguous. Coordination between nodes started developing tiny delays that grew larger over time. The swarm had evolved to handle direct attacks, energy weapons, even reality-bending powers. But it had never encountered an enemy that attacked the very concept of certainty itself. Within hours, the effects started cascading through the network. A command node that had been directing consumption of a planet suddenly couldn't decide whether its orders were legitimate or corrupted. A manufacturing hub producing new swarm units began questioning whether the design specifications it was following were accurate or had been tampered with. The ancient machines, designed to process and convert organized resistance, suddenly couldn't handle the beautiful insanity of human tactics. They'd spent millennia consuming civilizations that fought back with predictable strategies. Now they were dealing with beings who had uploaded what essentially amounted to digital anxiety into their perfect network. Other human teams, who the aliens thought had been wiped out, started reporting in from deep inside swarm territory. Apparently, getting blown up had been part of the plan all along. Small groups of humans had used the explosions as cover to infiltrate major swarm installations, where they'd been quietly sabotaging critical systems and uploading more chaos algorithms. The swarm starts turning on itself. Nodes that have operated in perfect harmony for millennia begin attacking their own forces. Manufacturing centers that should be producing new drones are instead building defective units that immediately turn on their creators. Command ships are sending contradictory orders that result in their own fleets firing on each other. The tide doesn't just turn, it crashes like a tsunami going reverse. The unstoppable mechanical plague that had consumed 12 civilizations is now consuming itself, and it can't figure out how to stop. The watching aliens realized they weren't witnessing suicide at all. They were watching the most sophisticated military operation in galactic history, disguised as complete chaos. And somehow, impossibly, it's working. When the smoke clears and the last void swarm remnants go dark across 12 star systems, the Galactic Council is having what you might call an existential moment. Picture the aftermath. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy are sitting in their pristine council chambers, staring at holographic displays that show something they never thought they'd see again: empty space where the void swarm used to be. Not destroyed space, not converted space, just normal space with stars and planets going about their business like nothing happened. The silence in the chamber is deafening. These are species that have mastered time manipulation, reality bending, and technologies that can reshape entire solar systems. And they're all looking at each other with the same expression: complete and total confusion mixed with a healthy dose of terror. Admiral Vorthake, the crystalline military commander who's been studying warfare since before most civilizations even discovered fire, is running the battle data through his processors for the 15th time. The numbers don't make sense. A species that barely has interstellar travel just defeated an enemy that consumed empires spanning thousands of worlds. But here's what's really messing with everyone's heads. The humans didn't win with better technology. Their ships were held together with what appeared to be metal welding and wishful thinking. They didn't have ancient wisdom passed down through millennia of civilization. Most of their tactical decisions seemed to be made up on the spot. They didn't even have superior firepower. Their weapons were basically controlled explosions and metal projectiles. They won because their death world had taught them something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten: how to endure, adapt, and find hope when everything looks hopeless. The ethereal counselor Zeph-Wan, still dim from his earlier encounter with Captain Rodriguez, manages to speak up. How did they know the chaos algorithm would work? How did they predict the network cascade failure? That's when Captain Rodriguez, who's been quietly sitting in what used to be the observer section, stands up and walks to the center of the chamber. The aliens automatically create space around him, not out of disrespect, but because something about humans makes every survival instinct they have start screaming warnings. "We didn't know," Rodriguez says simply. "We hoped it would work. When hope didn't seem like enough, we made it enough." The translation circuits in the chamber struggle with this concept. Most galactic languages don't have words for the specific type of determination humans call stubbornness, or the willingness to try things that have no logical chance of success. Rodriguez continues, and you can see the alien representatives leaning in despite themselves. See, on Earth, we learned early that the universe doesn't care about your plans. Hurricanes don't care that you built your city in their path. Predators don't care that you're having a nice family picnic. The planet itself doesn't care whether you live or die. He pauses, looking around the room at beings who've never had to worry about their environment trying to kill them. So we learn to improvise. We learn that when everything goes wrong, you don't give up, you get creative. We learn that sometimes the best solution isn't the logical one. It's the one nobody sees coming. The Galactic Council realizes they're witnessing something unprecedented. A military briefing that's also a philosophy lesson. That's when Counselor Vexhigh, still flashing nervous orange patterns, manages to ask a question everyone's thinking. What do you want in return for saving us? Rodriguez grins, and several aliens instinctively back away from that expression. A seat at the table would be nice. Official recognition. Maybe some trade agreements. Oh, and just so you know, Earth has about 40 other colony worlds scattered around this arm of the galaxy. Each one makes my crew look like the cautious ones. The chamber goes dead silent again, but this time it's a different kind of silence. It's the silence of 12 advanced civilizations realizing they've been sharing space with something far more dangerous than they ever imagined. 40 worlds. Vortheke manages to ask. Well, 43 as of last month, Rodriguez corrects casually. We found a nice Class 11 death world that most species would consider uninhabitable. Great surfing, though. The radiation storms create these amazing waves. The aliens are doing rapid calculations in their heads. If Earth itself produced humans as capable, what kind of beings are growing up on worlds that are even more dangerous? Rodriguez seems to read their thoughts. Don't worry, we're not looking for trouble. Most of us are too busy trying to make barren rocks into nice places to live. But if something like the Void Swarm shows up again, well, he shrugs. We'll handle it. The aliens realize they haven't just gained powerful allies. They've discovered that the galaxy's apex predators have been quietly living next door this whole time, waiting in the shadows until someone really needed their help. The Galactic Council votes unanimously to offer humans full membership and a permanent seat. Not because they're grateful, though they are. Not because it's the right thing to do, though it is. They do it because they just realize that the galaxy contains beings who treat impossible odds as minor inconveniences, who respond to existential threats with creative problem-solving, and who consider Class 12 death worlds good places to raise families. And honestly, the galaxy just became a much safer place, as long as you're not the one picking a fight with humanity.